If your dog barks at the mailman, paces when you leave the house, or chewed through a couch cushion last month, your veterinarian can hand you a prescription for a psychiatric drug in under 10 minutes. Fluoxetine, clomipramine, trazodone, gabapentin. The same class of medications a human psychiatrist would only prescribe after weeks of evaluation, your dog can be put on permanently after a single 15-minute appointment. And the parting words from the vet are almost always the same 4 words the pharmaceutical industry has spent decades engineering into veterinary practice. He may need this long-term. That phrase, long-term, is not a medical assessment. It is a business model. The US pet pharmaceutical market was valued at over $7 billion in 2023 and is projected to exceed $12 billion by 2030. The fastest growing segment of that market is not flea prevention. It is not cancer treatment. It is behavioral medication. The antidepressants, anti-anxiety drugs, and sedatives prescribed to dogs for conditions that, in the majority of documented cases, respond to behavioral intervention without any medication at all. The industry knows this, and they have built an entire ecosystem inside veterinary medicine to make sure your vet either does not tell you or genuinely does not know. Today, we are going to break down the anxiety meds trap, the 5 mechanisms the pharmaceutical industry uses to convert a behavioral problem into a lifetime prescription, and the 4 questions informed dog owners ask before any behavioral drug gets filled. To understand the trap, picture a scene that plays out in veterinary clinics across America every single day. A young Labrador comes in. The owner explains that the dog whines and destroys things when left alone. The vet listens for a few minutes, nods, and writes a script for daily fluoxetine. No referral to a behaviorist. No discussion of exercise levels. No questions about training history. No structured behavior modification plan. Just a pill, a follow-up in 3 months, and an open-ended assumption that the dog will be on this medication for years. This is not a worst-case scenario. According to clinical surveys of small animal practice, this is the modal outcome for canine anxiety presentations in general veterinary clinics. And the reason is structural, not malicious. Unlike human physicians, most practicing veterinarians do not read primary research literature on a daily basis. They do not have time. They are running 15-minute appointments back to back, often in clinics owned by corporate chains with productivity quotas. The continuing education they receive, seminars, webinars, printed materials in the break room, is overwhelmingly funded, sponsored, or directly produced by the pharmaceutical companies whose products are being discussed. This is a structural reality the industry has spent enormous resources exploiting. When pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly, the same manufacturer that sold Prozac to humans for decades, launched Reconcile in 2007, the FDA-approved canine version of fluoxetine, it became the template for the entire sector. The drug was packaged with a manufacturer-designed behavioral protocol branded BOND, and supported by a continuing education infrastructure that put Reconcile in front of practicing vets in nearly every major US market. The clinical message and the marketing message arrived at the vet's desk in the same envelope. And here is the financial architecture sitting underneath all of this. A board-certified veterinary behaviorist. And to be clear, that is not a trainer. A trainer teaches commands. A behaviorist diagnoses behavioral conditions and builds a clinical modification plan. 2 different professions. A behaviorist typically charges $250 to $600 for an initial consultation, and structured separation anxiety cases are often resolved within 6 to 12 weeks. A monthly supply of fluoxetine costs $20 to $80, and the prescription is renewed indefinitely, with vet appointments attached to every refill. Over 2 years, the behavioral path is a one-time cost. The pharmaceutical path generates recurring revenue forever. The system is not designed to optimize for outcomes. It is designed to optimize for cash flow. The peer-reviewed evidence on behavioral modification for canine separation anxiety is consistent. Studies of structured desensitization and counterconditioning protocols, the kind of programs a qualified behaviorist actually runs, report substantial reduction or full resolution of separation-related behaviors in the majority of treated dogs. No medication, no lifetime prescription, just structured training and informed owner education. A 2021 review published in Frontiers in Veterinary Science examined the evidence base for long-term psychopharmacological treatment in dogs and reached a conclusion that the manufacturers do not advertise. The majority of behavioral medications prescribed in clinical practice have no peer-reviewed data supporting their use beyond 12 weeks. The FDA approval for Reconcile is based on an 8-week clinical trial. 8 weeks. And yet in real-world practice, owners routinely report keeping their dogs on these medications indefinitely, with no defined endpoint written into the original prescription. The FDA's own approval documentation lists a range of adverse effects that veterinary clients are almost never walked through in a 15-minute appointment. Decreased appetite, lethargy, diarrhea, trembling, seizures, and aggression. The very behavior the drug is supposed to suppress. In the pivotal trial submitted to the FDA, a substantial percentage of dogs experienced at least one adverse event. That number is in the official label. It does not appear in the manufacturer's client-facing brochures. So here it is, the anxiety meds trap. 5 mechanisms the pharmaceutical industry uses to convert a normal behavioral problem into a lifetime prescription. Mechanism 1, diagnosis substitution. Behavioral complaints, barking, destruction, house soiling, reactivity, leash pulling, are reframed as anxiety disorders requiring medical management. The reframe quietly skips the question of whether the behavior has a training-based or environmental cause. Normal dog behavior in understimulated, underexercised, or undertrained animals gets labeled as clinical anxiety and medicated accordingly. Mechanism 2, the starter pack pipeline. Pharmaceutical sales representatives visit veterinary clinics with the same playbook used in human medicine. They bring lunches, they bring promotional materials, they bring free or heavily discounted medication samples that the clinic can hand out at no cost to the owner. The owner sees partial improvement in the first few weeks, often attributable to concurrent management changes the owner made at the same time, not the drug itself. The free trial converts to a paid prescription. The trial period quietly becomes permanent. Mechanism 3, specialist gatekeeping. Referrals to certified animal behaviorists, the professionals with the training and the evidence base to actually resolve behavioral conditions, are made inconsistently. In many cases, they are not made at all. The American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior has published position statements recommending behavioral intervention as a first-line response to anxiety-related conditions. Those position statements are buried in journal archives that the average pet owner will never see. Mechanism 4, withdrawal dependency framing. Once a dog has been on fluoxetine or clomipramine for an extended period, discontinuation requires a structured taper to avoid rebound anxiety and withdrawal effects. Owners who try to stop the medication observe behavioral deterioration during the taper and conclude the drug must be necessary. In many cases, what they are actually observing is withdrawal, not proof that the underlying condition requires permanent management. The dependency is not a feature of the dog's biology. It is a feature of the drug's pharmacology. Mechanism 5. The off-label expansion. Gabapentin, an anticonvulsant, approved in dogs for pain management, has become one of the most commonly prescribed drugs for canine anxiety, despite having no FDA approval for that use, and no controlled long-term trials in dogs demonstrating efficacy for behavioral conditions. It is cheap, it is widely available, and it produces visible sedation that owners interpret as calm. It is being prescribed off-label at a scale that has no regulatory oversight and no long-term safety data in the canine population. That is the anxiety meds trap. 5 mechanisms, 1 outcome. A dog on drugs indefinitely. and an industry collecting recurring revenue from a problem that, in the majority of cases, has a non-pharmaceutical solution. Yes, there are dogs with severe, organically rooted anxiety disorders that genuinely benefit from medication. That is real, but those cases are diagnosed by behaviorists, supported by structured behavior plans, and reviewed against clear discontinuation criteria. That is not what is happening in 15-minute general practice appointments. What is happening there is the trap. Here is what informed dog owners are doing instead. They are not anti-medicine. They are anti-default. They are using what we call the behaviorist loophole, a 4-question field test that tells you in 10 minutes whether your vet is practicing real behavioral medicine or running the pharmaceutical script. Question 1. Has a certified behaviorist evaluated this dog? Not a trainer, not a vet tech with a weekend certification, a certified veterinary behaviorist, a specialist with doctoral level training in animal behavior, either board certified through the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists or as a certified applied animal behaviorist. If no specialist evaluation has happened, the prescription is premature. Question 2. What is the specific diagnosis? Not anxiety, not behavioral issues. A specific condition with diagnostic criteria. And what is the evidence base for pharmacological treatment of that condition beyond 12 weeks? If the vet cannot point to peer-reviewed research supporting long-term use, the prescription has no scientific foundation underneath it. Question 3. What behavior modification plan runs alongside the medication? The FDA approval for Reconcile was granted as an adjunct to behavioral therapy, not as a standalone treatment. If no structured behavioral protocol has been written, the drug is being used outside the conditions of its own approval. Question 4. What does discontinuation look like? What are the criteria for tapering off? What triggers a stop? If the vet cannot answer what success looks like and when the drug comes off, there is no treatment plan. There is only an open-ended prescription. 4 questions. Print them. Bring them to the appointment. The vets practicing real behavioral medicine will welcome these questions and answer every one. The vets running the pharmaceutical script will deflect, get defensive, or change the subject. That itself is the diagnostic test you needed. Here is the bottom line. Your dog does not have a Prozac deficiency. In the majority of documented cases of canine anxiety, the root cause is insufficient exercise, inconsistent training, lack of mental stimulation, or an attachment pattern a qualified behaviorist can restructure within weeks. The pharmaceutical industry did not build a $7 billion market by solving those problems. They built it by medicalizing them. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as designed for everyone except your dog. You now have the anxiety meds trap. You know the 5 mechanisms. You have the behaviorist loophole. You know the 4 questions. And you know the FDA's own data sits in public documents the manufacturer's brochure was specifically engineered to bury. Behavioral medication is one piece of a much larger picture. The same playbook, manufacturer influence, regulatory gaps, recurring revenue logic, is running through every corner of the pet industry your dog touches. It is sitting inside the bag of kibble in your kitchen. In our next investigation, we are pulling apart the ingredient panels of the 5 best-selling dog foods in America and showing you exactly what those labels were designed to hide. If you want to see what they do not want you to see, subscribe. You will want this one.